Hi, Andrew here. And a man cannot be argued out of a position he holds that he was not argued into. I spoke of the peculiarities of the way the human mind works, the way the brain functions. And one of the things that I was talking about was the fact that there are people who have an internal monologue, that would be me, and people who do not, that they see images or that their brain functions on images or emotions or something. And that would be not me. And it got me to wondering about that saying I started out with, that you're not going to reason somebody out of a position he wasn't reasoned into. Or put differently, somebody's claiming credit for saying it, but I mean, I was reading Heinlein and he said it 50 years ago. Man is not a rational creature. He is a rationalizing creature. He holds an opinion, he has a belief, and then he argues backwards into it to justify it, to rationalize it. He is not reasoned into or out of it. And I find that generally to be very true. If it weren't true, Dumb and Dumber Blackface Hitler would not have won his first re-election, much less his second, which I believe I also spoke about how he has become an object of ridicule. And the thing that got him was not criminal behavior in the SNC-Lavalin. It was not ethical violations, being the only prime minister in Canadian history to be cited for ethical violations, and not just once, but twice. It wasn't him giving the metaphorical back of his hand to the brown woman in his cabinet for daring to defy him. All of the incredibly awful things that this man has done to earn him the title of Canada's worst prime minister. Step aside, Pierre Trudeau. There's a new super heavyweight champion, worst Canadian prime minister. It's your fucking son. Maybe just your stepson, but that's another thing. Anyway, all of the things that a rational person, not a rationalizing person, a rational person would look and see him tearing apart the fabric of Canadian society, exploiting cracks in creating divisions to consolidate political power. The scandals, the behavior that is flat out contrary to everything that he purports to believe. Oh, our so woke prime minister chucking women and brown women out of his cabinet for not doing what they're told. His absolutely disgusting and vile racism. I don't call him blackface Hitler for nothing. His breaking the budget. Oh, I'm going to combat inflation by pissing away $8 billion more money. I'm going to combat the devaluation of our currency by printing a bunch more. No, a logical, rational person would look at these things and say, this guy is awful. He's got to go. And yet, up until very recently, he was still atop the polls as most likely next prime minister. What changed it? Bad karaoke. Him drunkenly, badly belting out Bohemian Rhapsody when he was in England for the Queen's funeral. Now, I am the first to admit that karaoke is a crime against music, it's a crime against art, it's a crime against taste, but it's not a crime in the criminal code sense. Besides which, he was in England, so he's not, if he did it over there, he's not subject to our laws, I don't think. That is what seems to have stuck. The image of him yucking it up, drunkenly partying it up when he's supposed to be over for a very solemn occasion of state, when the longest serving queen in the history of the empire died and he was there for her funeral. And that's what's stuck. And when I think of all of the really good reasons to get him out of the prime minister's office, the one that seems to be getting him is, as I have mentioned before, probably the least offensive of all of the offensive things that he's done. But it's the one that stuck. Why? Because people do not vote liberal because they reasoned their way into it. You don't vote for that racist, sexist skid mark on the Canadian underwear because you were reasoned into doing it. You did it because, hey, Mr. Dressup is a master of imagery, if nothing else. Well, maybe not a master, but he knows imagery, as do his handlers. And so they projected an image of what they wanted. And here is an image in contrast to that. And unlike the multiple blackface pictures and videos, for some reason, this one got out and it got big enough to go viral. And the image got before the Canadian people. And suddenly, Pierre Poilievre is the, some survey or other, I can't remember which one, is the Canadian populace's best choice for next Prime Minister. It wasn't reasoned. It was emotional. It was images. Is this people who think in words versus people who think in images and emotions? Does that explain all of the huge divisions that we have in our political and social and so on lives? I don't know. I find it fascinating, but I don't know. It would perhaps explain, what was it, 2 years ago, they started doing the NPC memes of people following along. New image, image of this, I'm against this. Image of that, I'm against that. Image of the other thing, I'm against the other thing. I support the thing. And the NPC character. Is this inability to think in language, linearly in language, but to have your thoughts in images and emotions, is that where it comes from? It would certainly explain why, again, you don't reason people out of their positions, you persuade them. And this is something that's been known for 2,500 years. The Greeks, they had Socrates and dialectic. They had Aristotle and rhetoric. Rhetoric is not logic. Dialectic is not emotion. It was the difference between argument and persuasion. And it's been something that's been going on in the human mind for, well, first time it was written down was 2,500 years ago. Food for thought? Or food for image, I guess. And something to ponder anyway. Thank you very much for watching. That was my time. Now is your time. And in the meantime, take care, and you'll see me soon.